And good evening, everybody, and welcome back here to this edition of the Metascale podcast here with me, Charles Bryce Ritchie. And you catch me every Mondays and Wednesdays streaming live here on Facebook, Metascale Podcast. Search for it that way or at Metascale Nation, capital S. And then also you can check me streaming live on Instagram, Metascale Nation. And then of course my YouTube channel, which is currently playing right now, Men of Steel podcast. As we got a good one in store right now. Get ready to break down the Steelers Chiefs Week Season 2 pregame that happened this weekend. And again, it is preseason as right now, as we're all aware, but no meaningful games till we get to the season. But I must say, so far, back-to-back weeks right now, I got to say, I'm liking the way this defense is performing. And what I liked about this time last week, versus last week, I should say, this past week, was that they held a late lead. It was not a sign where we saw them give up 2 touchdowns, where the Buccaneers almost tied, forced the game in overtime, or probably could have won on a 2-point conversion. But I just got to say, I've been pretty impressed so far. At this point in time, obviously it's been an emotional week. They've been playing with their emotions on their sleeves with the passing of Daryl Drake and doing the honor of honoring him with the initials DD on the back of their helmets. And like I said, we're going to get into their biggest keys that I was talking about going into this game. Plus, here are some comments from Mike Tomlin in our interview he did with the organization earlier today. And of course, this is all on the opening drive. And of course, we'll wrap up with fair or foul. Some stuff they may need to address with the roster, and they just do a little addition. And as there are probably a few guys they should consider releasing. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. You can also, like I said, follow me on Twitter at Pride Ritchie. Of course, you got my other streaming platforms. Once again, that is Instagram, Metascale Nation. And of course, you got me on my YouTube channel, Metascale Podcast. And let's get into it right now. And I got to tell you right now, the stuff that really impressed me, I think, this past weekend, let's begin with the time of possession. And that was improved by 4 more minutes versus their opponent. This week, they controlled the ball for a little over 31 minutes versus the Chiefs, 28 and a half minutes. So they had a 2.5-minute differential in the time of possession, which I thought was very key right here if they're going to have like a real, true, controllable win in this scenario when you really think about it. I thought that was they definitely, when you look at the offense, the way they started off, obviously it was a little bit like sloppy in the first half. It wasn't Mason Rudolph's best performance, but I tell you what, he definitely showed a lot of resilience. Even though for a guy who, when you look at this game and you saw what happened to them, bottom line, Rudolph, he only got sacked 1 time, did not turn the ball over. And then you look at a guy like Joshua Dobbs, who's trying to defend his backup position behind Ben Roethlisberger versus a week ago. And you look at what he's done. This is like back-to-back weeks. Not back-to-back weeks, excuse me. But he's turned the ball over this week. The only thing was, versus last week, he didn't have to worry about was no interceptions or turnovers. But he got sacked twice. I really feel like right now, when you look at Josh Dobbs, the thing that he did not do 2 weeks in a row, no touchdown passes. And I like his mobility. He's still got somewhat of a decent arm, but I tell you what, finishing drives is more of an important thing when you look at a guy like Joshua Dobbs. He's been, I think, a decent backup so far. for the most part. But I mean, we really truly got to see how he did more so when he came in the game against the eye opener was one against the Raiders. So I really feel like that stuff still concerns me a little bit. I just think when I see a guy like Mason Rudolph, he plays with a lot more poise, a lot more confidence, a lot more resilience, if you ask me. And to be truthfully honest, too, I mean, when you really look at this, I mean, Mason Rudolph, he came out of this game with a 79 QB rating, while Joshua Dobbs, on the other hand, he has the worst end of his QB rating for the evening with 45.6. Devin Hodges has the highest one, 122.9. And, I mean, Mason Rudolph had the second most passing yards behind Dobbs. Dobbs had for 95 yards and versus last week, too. So his completion percentage definitely dipped down by about 9%. He was about 55 last week, and this week he was rounded off to about 63%. So obviously there's a little dip right there. But like I said, I think the things that are not looking good on him is not only getting the sack, but then a turnover. But the biggest thing, I think more importantly, is finishing those drives with touchdowns. I think he had to look at right there and start to wonder because, like I said, good quarterbacks, eventually when you want to try and become great, when you look at it, I really feel like right now you got to learn to finish drives. That is definitely be a key thing right there, if you ask me. And how you and because like I said, you want to be the guy who's the calm, cool, collective guy that people want to ride with, they want to roll the dice on. And I think Joshua Dobbs, for his sake, like I said, not looking good right now. But at the same time, this is preseason. Still a little bit more ways to go. I mean, we're seeing right now, almost at this point in time, people are starting to wonder if it's necessary for Ben Roethlisberger to even start starting against the Titans game. Should we wait against the season finale when they take on the Panthers? I think that's one big thing right there when you look at it. And I think right now, when you look at like the number of arms they have on this team, I think it's doing really well. I mean, you got guys who definitely make some impressions throwing the ball. And like I said, too, I think the biggest key factor is that they're finding a way to make it work. But also, let's look at some other key notes in this game. I mean, when you also look at it, I mean, the penalties. Steelers are playing more disciplined football if you really look at things. This is the second straight week where they had penalties for under 100 yards. This time, the penalties went down by two more. We got 8 penalties for 50 yards, which I think is really impressive. And we're talking about Steelers who want to play disciplined football. This is how you play disciplined football right here. You minimize the amount of penalties that you have in the contest. And I really believe they're doing a good job of this at this point in time. I think Tomlin has got this team in the right mindset, but considering who they had to move on from and one of the wide receivers coaches, I mean, this is definitely a team that's built on adrenaline and emotion, as you can tell right now. But I really feel like this team at this point in time is really starting to learn a lot about each other as the core they got right now, the togetherness, and more importantly, the camaraderie. And that's what I like about the Steelers team right now. Say you, again, if you want, feel free to dial in. The number is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. Now let's take a look at some other stuff real quick in this game, too. I mean, also, I'm talking about, like, the offense. Let's also go back to the defense side. The defense had one last sack that they did last week. This time they get about in the defense side of the ball. When you really see them, they had 3 sacks for 17 yards, which is still pretty darn impressive. One good thing I was very encouraged to see out there is T.J. Watt getting in out there. You can definitely tell he's healthy. I think he had like a tackle for loss in this contest against the Chiefs. when we look at it. And like I said, no, it's actually a pass deflection. Excuse me, I take that back. But Tyler Matakevich had a real good, phenomenal game in this contest, as far as like on the defensive side. But if I'm looking as far as like a player of the game, I'll probably have to on the defense. My defensive ball will go to Bud Dupree. Retackle. He had 3 total tackles in that contest, had QB hit, a tackle for loss, and he also had 2 sacks. He led the team with 2 sacks, which I think was very impressive on there, considering the Chiefs only had 1 for the game. So he led both teams in that category. And this is a guy who's also looking for like a make it or prove it type year. And you look at the combination about him and TJ Watt going into this year, I really feel like that's got to be encouraging signs right now for the coaching staff when you really look at it. And that's what I'm pretty much encouraged about. I don't know about you, but like I said, I think those are some definitely strong stuff right there. I think the only thing right now, they are starting to get a little bit thinned as far as at the outside linebacker position, little by little. And you may have to consider making a move maybe at the end of the preseason. We'll see how everything shapes out. But like I said, the one thing we got to keep an eye on is Ola Adeniyi. Remember, it was learned that he had torn meniscus, according to Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And they're saying at minimal 2 or 4 weeks. So when you're talking about meniscus, you're talking about like around your knee area. And we see the play times in sports or athletes, especially in physical sports. I'm not sure if that's be something that could get like that we can't say that they're going to be out of the woods and not have any issues with. I don't know about that. I think right now what you have to be careful is, like I said, I mean, who's more important you want to see staying healthy, the veterans or like your up and comers? Because like I said, here, and just give everyone a little update about Devin Bush. Remember, I mentioned the last podcast on Saturday for the pregame podcast was that he was out with an undisclosed injury, and we learned what it was in this game when we're going into it now. But at the same time, too, a guy like Devin Bush, he had a little bit of a shoulder injury going into this game. And like I said, that was the only thing that was reported, and that he was being taken out as a precautionary. So let's just give you an update on that part as far as like with the injury front. But yeah, I definitely feel like that's one thing to keep an eye on was Bush right there, the guy who they traded up for in the draft to select. And I really had like a little bit of a concern on that. So that was one thing. I think also Benny Snell had an injury too in that contest, which was undisclosed. Benny Snell Jr., who actually made a nice tackle on special teams too on one of Ian Berryman's punts when we look at it. And here's the update on Benny Snell. And this was being reported on SB Nation by Nathan Bealey, it looks like. And it said that Steelers running back Benny Snell Jr. tweaked his groin against the Kansas City Chiefs after recording a team-high 7 carries. And for much of those 7 carries he only had for like about 16 yards. He was productive in that game against the Chiefs when we look at it. I mean, for Benny Snell, I mean, he's definitely – I mean, his average went up barely. He had about 2 yards per carry last week. This week it's about 2.3. So it's pretty much around the same ballpark, just barely by a couple fractions that it went up on. But like I said, let's go with some other keys right here. Listen to the opening drive right now. Let's get ready to transition into fair or foul here on this edition of the Metal Steel podcast. Ed Boucher of The Athletic proposed this question, and that do you see the Steelers addressing any positions through free agency as training camp wraps up and season starts, such as tight end, safety, outside linebacker. Needs to be legitimate depth at those positions and injury at those spots. And I definitely have to agree somewhat because, like I said, you also had right here too when we look at the other injuries that have been happening who, during this contest recently, and like I said, as we all know that Devin Bush was taken out as a precaution due to like a shoulder, but then we also take a look at too. Anthony Chickalo injured his chest, but head coach Mike Tomlin called both ailments minor. So here's the thing we got to remember. I would have to go foul on that, addressing any of these positions. Maybe the outside linebacker one, only with Oladani. Let's face facts. When we're talking about preseason and training camp, you're going to see injuries popping up a lot left and right, unfortunately. I think that's just be the nature of the beast. I mean, where we feel comfortable with. At the same time, too, I like what they did with Devin Bush. Give him a little bit of rest. Of course, you don't want to overwork a guy like him. That's your investment. That's your baby right there. You got to protect at this point in time. Well, they see as a special cat. And of course, Mike Tomlin even had to come up and say that he sees Devin Bush now starting to look like Ryan Shazier in recent memory. And I think that's just very key. Obviously, they're being very smart about this, and they're being much more cautious as far as like overworking their guys. And they realize what they need to work with, who they need to have available at this point in time. So I definitely look at, but I gotta tell you, this defense I'm really enjoying right now. Especially, I know it's preseason, but again, when you look at what they did to a guy like Patrick Mahomes in this game, well, actually went 2 for 5, completing 40% of his passes, only for 11 yards. I mean, of course, you're going to probably expect a guy to play very little, but still, I think that's pretty darn impressive right there. And I like Mahomes. I think he's a good quarterback. Very solid MVP from last year. Potential Super Bowl champion candidate, maybe. But I really like the stuff that the Steelers have been doing. I mean, let's take a look at it too. Let's go back to like the offense real quick. Look at James Washington. Second straight week, he leads the team in receiving. 84 yards last week. 43 was his longest catch, a touchdown. And of course, this week, 4 receptions for 78 yards. No touchdowns, but his longest was 40 yards out of 5 targets. I gotta tell you right now, I'm liking what I'm seeing James Washington right now at this point in time. You can definitely tell he's a guy who's in shape. He's playing a lot more faster, a lot smarter. And of course, you also got Deontay Johnson, too. I mean, who actually had a whale of a game against the Chiefs. Three receptions for 46 yards, one touchdown. 24 was his longest reception yards. So I think you got to be encouraged by that at the same time, too. So I'm really liking this so far. But at the same time, too, like I said, Benny Snell Jr., I mean, he's proving he can catch the ball. I mean, he had 51 yards his first week. But let's see where this goes at this point in time as we get ready to look. Just want to say a couple of shout outs real quick to people who've been tuning in. Appreciate the likes. Wendy Bohr, thank you very much for tuning in. Definitely go way back a lot. Pleasure having your support. Appreciate that. Of course, Melly Miller and Steve Kava, thank you very much for liking this podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And now let's get ready to go into our second topic of fair or foul. Will the Steelers keep 4 quarterbacks this year? I'll probably have to say fair on that one. But I got to tell you, I think Josh Dobbs has more to prove, I think, for the second straight year. I mean, Mason Rudolph still got to do a little bit more to take the job from him. I mean, of course, he's still tabbed as the number 2 quarterback. But again, I think right now, when you look at the guys, when you look at it's pretty much an army of arms behind Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, when you really look at it, and just been amazingly impressive. I mean, Devin Hodges, he definitely improved his passing yardage. I mean, he's been pretty solid so far. 50% passing this week versus 57% last week. So I think that's another good thing right there when you look at it. I just think right now that, like I said, I think Josh Dobbs has a little bit more of the pressure. He hasn't delivered a touchdown drive yet. Mason Rudolph has, I mean, at least in his first attempt. But we'll see where this leads. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns first time, and then the second time around, not any touchdowns. But I mean, at the same time, he's doing a terrific job. I mean, you had a nice little running play right there by Jalen Samuels, who rushed it for 24 yards. So he did lead him on the touchdown drive. It just wasn't a touchdown pass that he was credited with. So I'm going to go fair on that. I mean, because you just never know. I mean, I just be wondering if a guy like Dobbs, even though we haven't seen his football career be a multi-purpose player, or if he could be utilized in a wildcat role. That'd be my question I'd like to pose if you ask me. And if he could do that, I'm all for it. I mean, why not? I mean, Rudolph and Hodges, terrific picks on this team. You just never know what you're going to need as things get a little bit awkward or acky throughout the season, or murky, I should say, excuse me. But I mean, those are the stuff we have to look at and be a little bit more careful about when we really start thinking about things. And let's get into our final topic of fear foul right now. Do you think right now we're going to see guys like Diontae Johnson and Spencer make more big impacts on the team? I'm going to go fair on that one, especially when I'm seeing some nice little trickery plays where they can run the ball on sweeping plays, and you're starting to see the true speed of this team. I mean, Diontae Johnson had 3 catches, like I said, for 46 yards, 50.3 yards per catch. But I mean, you also got like Diontae Spencer too. When you also look at on your special teams here, when you really look at it, Diontae Spencer had two punt returns for 49 yards. 38 his longest. Diontae Johnson 3 for 11, 3.7. And I really feel like there's I mean, you can't deny that from them what they'll be able to do in that regard. So I definitely feel like it's more flexible, more open spots, no doubt about it. Remember, we got the game this Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start. They'll be on the road against the Tennessee Titans. I think that will definitely be an interesting one right there. This will be their first road game to know as far as in this preseason. First time they'll be away from home. And Mike Tomlin, who was actually being, like I said, talked to the media, had this to say so far as about their team building. Take a listen to this. And there you have it. I mean, he's liking the element of the team building, the stuff they've been able to contribute. And what can you say right now for a guy like him? I mean, this is definitely like you gotta be satisfied for what you're seeing so far. Like I said, again, it is preseason. I mean, you can have a perfect preseason, not have a real good regular season, but I'm really liking the effort of these men, the contributions, everyone's being all in. And that was all about when you really get into this sport and when you're trying to be once again in the minds of many people, you want to prove wrong that they could still be a title contending team as we move a little bit closer on their journey ahead as they try and go for Lombardi number 7. We shall see how that comes. But I think the main goal right now at this point is just trying to focus getting back to the playoffs. I mean, at this point in time, considering I think definitely you heard from Mike Tomlin. You heard how he's pretty much enthused about the team building aspect. And just what you want to do is just want to just get back into the playoffs right now. I think that's just one thing they want to make sure they remind people who they are and what they could still do and what they could potentially be. And so, like I said, that's going to draw to a conclusion of this edition here of the Mess Fuel Podcast. Me, Charles Fred Ritchie, as we always look here on this fine day. And like I said, once again, you can always catch me here Mondays and Wednesdays throughout the season. You can follow me on Twitter at Pride Ritchie. Of course, on Instagram, Mass Steel Nation. Then, of course, you can check out my YouTube channel, Mass Steel Podcast. So, real quickly, let's just continue to keep throughout the week, see what we come up with over here. But like I say, just focus on this preseason, see what comes up. And like I said, also before I get out of here, too, I want to pay a special tribute to someone here, too. For like the second straight week, we heard a death within the NFL where it's a former player or a former coach. And I just want to give my prayers, love, and thoughts. And I'm from Chicago here. And I remember a guy, former Bear, and of course, this Longhorn, talk about none other than Cedric Benson, who was killed in a motorcycle accident late Saturday evening, lost his life at the age of 36. Been taken away too soon. He was a former Bear, NFC champion with the Chicago Bears. He also played with the Packers and Bengals. I think the last year he was with the Packers and he called it quits. I want to say after the 2012 season. So again, everybody, just want to echo my sentiments, my comments to my prayers, love, and thoughts to his family, loved ones, and friends. Keep on your prayers, as we do with Daryl Drake. Another sad man has been taken away from us too soon at this point in time. 62 years old, and you just never know. Just make sure people you're around, you give them a nice embrace, and just make sure you always just communicate with people, keep people in your hearts, and make sure you always say you love them. And that's the most important thing we all need to focus on as we move a little bit longer in this life journey when we look at things. And that's just really what I got to say about that. Because as far as everything going on, just want to just leave you, as I always say, don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.